Your support of the Candid Frame over the past 12 years has been invaluable to us. You have not only helped us produce over 400 episodes, but your donations directly helped us to create the Candid Frame app and making it available for free. We are now proud to announce the release of a new way for you to listen to TCF. We have released a new skill that is compatible with Amazon Alexa-enabled devices. Using voice commands, you can listen to the latest episodes, jump forward and back, and if you stop listening partway through an episode, it will remember where you left off. And like the Candid Frame app, it's free for users in the US and Canada. In the coming months, the skill will be available in other countries, and I'll let you know when those become available. You can help and continue to support the work that we do here by contributing as little as $2 a month to our Patreon campaign. You not only help us to meet our cost of production, but provide us the means to improve the quality of the show and do so much more. Contribute today by visiting patreon.com/The Candid Frame. This is Ibarian X, and this is The Candid Frame. The pursuit of a dream always involves challenges and adversity, and it is often the way you handle and overcome those obstacles that are the greater measure of your success. It is the test of your true character, rather than simply talent or luck, that proves what you are capable of to yourself and to others. When Joana Toro immigrated from Colombia, she left behind a successful career as a photojournalist. She aspired to expand her career as a photographic storyteller here in the U.S., but within a year, she was short on money and opportunities. In desperation for income, she donned a Hello Kitty costume and walked the streets of Times Square, New York, soliciting and posing for tips from tourists. She turned this low point in her life into a catalyst for her photography when she began photographing from within the costume itself, and later the people, largely immigrants, who also worked as characters on the streets of the Big Apple. Toro has taken what would have crushed the dreams of others and leveraged it into the photographic career she's always dreamed of. Joana, welcome to the Candid Frame. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, your work is fascinating. I have a really strong affinity for documentary photography. The ability to be able to tell, stories and imagery is, I think, one of the greatest things that photography has made possible. And your work is a really wonderful example of that. But before we get into, your specific bodies of work, I wanted to learn a little more about your time in Colombia, growing up there, and to give us a little background as to what your life was like down there.
Okay. I born in Bogotá, the capital of Colombia, but I grew up in Barranquilla and Cartagena, that is coast, Atlantic Sea. So I have a mix of cultures in my background, familiar background. Some of my sisters and brothers are from Bogotá and the others are from Barranquilla. So we are a mixed family in that case, coast and cold weather in Bogotá. So as soon as I finished my high school, I went to Bogotá and I work in service jobs there. And for circumstances, I find photography, and I feel that the camera tell things that I need to tell without draw or make a design or something like that, and do it better because make it real, no? So I begin to use my camera to portray my friends and my life and my job and my stuff. And suddenly my friends who were people who studied graphic design in the last part of the studies tell me that I have something in my pictures, and one of them invite me to a portfolio review in the main newspaper in Colombia called El Tiempo. And for surprise of me, I get a chance to make pictures for a style life section And in that point, I begin to use my camera until today.
It must have surprised you to discover that you might be able to earn a living or income from your photography.
Yes, I get surprised because I never imagined myself as a professional photographer. I didn't make any college or university studies, so I get surprised that the graphic designer, want to use my pictures to talk about, I don't know, depression, anxiety, all the things that daily lifestyle and stuff in newspapers talk about it. So I begin making photo illustration, they call it. Mm-hmm. So I begin in that area, no? That make me surprised, of course, because I never expect that.
And when you started shooting for the paper, I'm sure that it was your first opportunity to meet other photographers, other photojournalists. Tell me about that experience, about meeting other people who were using the cameras to tell stories and to, go out there and document, Colombia in a variety of different ways. What was that experience like, being part of a community of photographers down there?
A bittersweet experience because I was a kind of heaven, because everybody there talk about photography and I was like new in everything. I began shooting with a Pentax K1000, mm-hmm. a very old.
Oh, yeah.
I shoot with that for 5 years in that paper, so more or less 3 years or something like that. So I was like training myself. I think that newspaper, that experience was my college, and that was sweet and great, and bitter because it's hard for a woman work in a men environmental space in Colombia, and I learned a lot of myself. I learn of my mistakes. I learn of others' virtues or others' good things and others' bad things too. So completely blessed to have that learning process in this newspaper. We are 25 photographers and 2 women. One was the secretary and me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did that sexism manifest in people not giving you opportunities, or did people try to sabotage you? How did that manifest for you?
It's not only in photography. It's not only in media. I think it's in general, no? Mm-hmm. It's not fair if I say this. It's only in what?
Yeah, of course.
In one issue. It's many issues in our society. Was difficult because I was shooting at first, of course, I have to shoot in things that nobody want to shoot, right? Mm-hmm, because it's right. The first step that you have to do is obvious and is fair. But in some time, when I spend more and more time shooting, I don't know how to express that. I feel like I have condescendence behavior with me. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, women make food, home, like women issues.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I want to make street, politics, football. So it was difficult to change a little bit the mind of the society, in that little space, So it was a hard way to show myself as versatile photographer, not only for illustrations, also for public stuff like portraits or interviews or things that in newspaper happen. So I have to open my way to show my versatility as photographer with the time. And I think for women it's more difficult than for men. I'm not sure if it's the case now, but in that time I feel it. So that's my experience.
Did you feel that at some point you had a breakthrough Can you point to a particular assignment or project that allowed you to sort of break that barrier for yourself?
As a stranger, or I don't know how to name that, a person who was learning there, I used to go sometimes to heavy stuff with the people who was in the assignment, and I begin to break that when I bring pictures also, and the editor of the time review the picture of my coworker and then review my picture, and he decided to use my picture. So it happened many times, sometimes no, sometimes yes, but when happened was a kind of, okay, she's capable. Okay. But take time.
One of the things I was reading is that when you were a young girl, you were bullied, and I was curious as to how that experience helped shape you as you went out to serve as a photographer in an environment that could sometimes be hostile to the fact that not only that you were a woman, but that you were also the new person who could be seen as a competition.
In that I was bullied when I was in school, or where?
Yeah, when you were in school. Mm-hmm.
My situation in high school was a little awkward because I was in a super conservative school of the Opus Dei called Gimnasio Los Corales. It's an Opus Dei school in Barranquilla. That means it's very rigorous, very religious, and I am a person very open-minded, very flexible, science always. So it was a big shock. I am different because I just to ask for all the reason. I don't believe in hell, never eat that philosophy of sign and punishment, and I never really believe in that. And I was a person a girl who wants to know more about history or other kind of things that a teenager in that time in that city was completely I don't know, girls in that time was thinking in the quinceañera party or whatever. Right, I gotcha. Really hate dresses and stuff like that. So when somebody's different, no matter if you're in high school or not, or in real life or in society, the first reaction is a kind of rejection. It's like humans sometimes feel the difference, so the tendency is reject what is different. So I was completely different in that environment. So I think that the bullying come from that, no? Because I was in Barranquilla, but with another family root. I don't like the dresses, the heels, or the boy stuff. I was more thinking in history and going out with teachers in the breaks with preschool teachers, so kind of awkward person for that time.
I'm wondering whether that experience made you able to empathize with some of the people that you photograph, because you focus on communities where people are treated badly because they are different. And yes. It seems like you gravitate to that. And I was wondering whether the fact that you were bullied and that you were, treated differently makes you better able to photograph groups of people that are subjected to things like that.
Yes, it's something that I think now that I am a grown woman, and I say thank you to that high school and that hard religious environment, rich people stuff. Mm-hmm. because without that, I don't get the importance of be different, the importance of the humble people, and the importance of diversity. Without that experience, maybe I don't care, or who knows. That experience made me aware of other voices, not only people who has problems, just people that is different. And I truly believe that difference is necessary in our world, because it's very boring. Everybody think the same. Everybody eat the same. It's just like difference is the spicy of the life. And in that time in Barranquilla, in a high class society, everybody was like format in the same, the same shape, and it's kind of annoying in some way. So since then, I begin to see humble people more open, more accessible, less complicated, and more real. So since then, I begin to feel more comfortable with people, with real people.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
You started working for the newspapers there, but when did you start becoming aware of the documentary photography style? Because when you work for a newspaper, that comes out every day, and it's not really dedicated to telling sort of long form stories. It's more about, let's get a picture to illustrate this article for today, and then it's off to the next assignment. When did you start thinking about documentary storytelling with pictures as opposed to just the daily grind of a paper?
Late. I begin in 2000, as you say, pictures, assignments, 10 assignments in one day, finish, never go into, never see more. And sometimes I get the desire to know what happened or why, but never had enough time. And in 2009, I begin to feel the necessity more than ever, and I begin to feel very tired of breaking news in that time, because I feel like, I don't know, it's not fair to tell the story so fast. What happened if it's a misunderstanding? What happened if the reason is not that reason? So in 2009, I began to study about it. For first time, see photographers that doing that stuff. For first time, go back to the situation and ask. For first time, begin to care about the story more than the result, the photo, the publication. So in 2009, I began with that inquietude, with that issue.
One of the bodies of work that where you came to my attention was the series that you did where I Am Hello Kitty, in which you actually were out in Times Square in the outfit. For people who don't know, in big cities in New York and Los Angeles and probably elsewhere, there are these people that put on these costumes like that of a superhero or an anime character or a cartoon character, and they go to locations where there are a lot of tourists, and they go out there and pose for photographs in exchange for a donation of sort. And for you actually donned this costume. But the unique thing about it is that you actually were photographing from within the costume. And as well, you photographed the other people who, partake in this business of going out and being in costume. And I thought it was really fascinating. And what sparked the idea to do this in the first place? Because it's fascinating.
I think sometimes and sometimes projects find you, and that was the case with I Am Hello Kitty. Was something that I don't find. I was in middle of a crisis. Somebody have a crisis, and And I was in middle of this personal crisis because I was in middle of my English studies here in New York. I spend all the money that I get in my newspaper life. I spent that in 1 year here in New York because I was paying rent, eating, and paying my school. So the money, fly. And in that time, my money was over. I didn't finish my classes. I didn't want to come back without finish here. I didn't have idea how to fix that. I tried to find work as a photographer, and I understand what expectations are so different to reality. Because in Colombia, I was well-known photographer. Here, I was nobody, of course.
Yeah.
And my English is in that time was worst, and many things happened. So I had to decide, okay, I come back to Colombia and say I couldn't, or I try and make money and see at least I finish my my courses, So I decided to stay. I decided to try. As I told you, I tried to find a job as photographer. I imagine in my crazy mind when I was in Colombia, it was super easy. Just go to Getty or whatever place and ask for work, and they give you work, and you know how to do it, and that's it. No, it's not like that. So after that experience, I realized that I am not capable to be the photographer that I used to be in Colombia in that moment. I tried to find other jobs, but it was very difficult for me working as a waiter or stuff like that, because very, very dumb to do that. So I find this woman in Times Square the day that I went to take picture of my roommate. She has a performance and she wants to dance with a mannequin in Times Square, so she needs some picture. And okay, let's do it. And I begin to hear that the people in costume talk in Spanish. So something tell me, of course, I saw that they have picture and people give money. So I say, well, maybe this is a kind of work that I can do. I can do a Zoom. So I ask, and Doña Berta, the woman who respond my question, say, this is very hard. I don't think you can. And I think you are not capable to do it. This is hard. And I say, yes, I am. I can do it. Okay, come next weekend. I went the weekend and I saw what she means. It's extremely difficult. And I began to work in that without camera for 3 months. In these 3 months, I was super sad to see myself in that way. Poor me. And then, and no talking about the camera, no thinking that this is an issue, nothing. Just complain. So one day I say, no, wait a minute, I am a photographer no matter if I am working in a newspaper or a magazine or not. I am a photographer because I am a photographer, not because I have an ID. So who cares? I'm going to bring my camera and I begin to open my eyes little by little, and I turn the situation, and then the situation become a project. So this is the story of that project.
It's really fascinating, but I want to get back to something you just said, because the lady said this is really hard work, and she didn't think you were capable of it, and then you discovered that it is very hard. What is the difficulty in doing that kind of work?
First of all, you are a street worker. That means that you don't have any warranty of nothing, even security or pay or nothing. It's you with your costume. You can make $10 in 8 hours or not. Also, it depends on you. Second, the streets have a kind of invisible laws when you are working in the streets. How can I describe this? For example, if I was working with Doña Berta and she was working with 6 or 7 Mexicans, I can go to the Peruvian street. So each street has a kind of director or something like that. It was organized and it's invisible. So when you are working in a street, you have to face sometimes the aggression of some people, or many things that happen when you are in a costume and you can run and you can see well, and you are almost like a kid in that costume. So I have to face many situations, very good situations sometimes, and also terrible situations. No? Sometimes people want to take advantage of you because they believe that you are ignorant, or you don't off and push it down because your accent or your color or your background. So in the street you can see that every day. Yeah. So I understand many things about immigration in that experience.
Tell me about the logistics of photographing from within the costume, because the costumes are already fairly awkward to be around for 8 hours a day, but much less trying to make photographs. How did you work that out?
Yes, it was very difficult at the beginning. My neck was in pain because the head is not heavy, but with 3 hours, 4 hours is heavy now. So the costume was difficult to wear, is furry, and the head of the costume is huge. I mean, you have a space for other head if you want it. So in that situation, it was easy to me have the camera in the eye of the Hello Kitty costume. So I just have to put the camera inside of the Hello Kitty costume and shoot, but I can't see what I was shooting. You understand?
Yeah.
I didn't see the result as I take out the camera and see. So I was anticipating shooting or something like that. But take me time because I wear this costume for almost 1 year, and I begin to shoot the main of the project in the 4 or 5 months. So I have already idea how the camera is going to take, no?
Right.
I know more or less what to expect. And sometimes was completely awkward situation or cool or so I get the technique with the practice of wear my costume.
Earlier this year, I had the pleasure of participating in a Momento photographic workshop, a unique photographic experience that allows you to use your skills as a photographer to benefit a nonprofit organization that is in the service of human rights, youth, job training, homeless outreach, and more. It was an amazing experience to learn how to collaborate with organizations that are of service in our communities. Momento is celebrating its 10th anniversary and has scheduled several workshops in the coming year. They include events in Charleston, South Carolina, Portland, Oregon, and now Puerto Rico. Each student is assigned a different nonprofit, or you can choose to find your own. Together, you create a photo story that speaks to the mission of the organization. You'll also get nightly lectures and a full day of business skills training. Plus, this experience includes one-on-one editing sessions with an instructor to go over all the photos in a personal, focused feedback session. It can and will change the way you see your photography. To find out more, visit MomentoWorkshops.com and check out my interview with co-founder Jamie Rose in episode 360 of The Candid Frame. You know, what's really interesting is that you not only photographed through your own costume, but you photographed the other people who put on these costumes. When did they start becoming aware that you were taking pictures, and how were they about the fact that you were making photographs?
Something that was a fact that helped me is that I began as a other worker. I was other person who were other Latina wearing a costume there. I was not the photographer who worked for whatever, or the artist who wants to be. No, nothing of that. I was another one. So people in this community perceive myself as another one. And with the time, I begin to wear my camera, so they just don't care.
Yeah.
They say, Hello Kitty. This is Hello Kitty with camera. She's the Hello Kitty with the camera. So I was that person. No big deal. So for that lucky situation, I get advanced to they don't allow, because if you go there with a camera, they don't let you take pictures. They get mad. They are difficult because they protect themselves, because they are people in necessity, because they don't have documents, because they have to protect themselves. So of course they don't open the door to whatever with a camera. So I think the thing that helped me to go into was the fact that I was one of them at the beginning. And I decide to take picture when I decide to be photographer, no matter what. And that change of mind was the key to make this project. Some people believe that I asked for this job to make the project, and it's not that real. It's very. I feel very shame. My ego was hurt in that situation. You know. No, I have to understand many things of myself, and the first time that I see myself as a costume in a screen in Times Square, sometimes you can see yourself in the screens, and I see it, wait a second, I am Hello Kitty, I am not Joana, nobody knows that I am Joana. So all the symbolism, and I begin to understand the power of this project in the meaning of symbolism, in the meaning of identity, in the meaning of Latinos in U.S., in the meaning of Mickey Mouse, who has problems with police, or Statue of Liberty without, I don't know, so many ironies and surreal things happening, that in that moment I realized that this is not personal, this is more behind that, it is more bigger. Of course, I use myself to protect them in the way that I don't say they are. I use myself, but I'm talking about others. Not about me. But I use the title, I don't know, as a kind of that issue.
It's really fascinating, because the way that I see it is like it's really about perception. Because here you are, an immigrant in New York, and when people see you walking down the street or they hear your voice, they immediately make some assumptions about who you are, right? And then here you are in this costume, this iconic costume, where all of a sudden that identity is stripped away. And all of a sudden you are something else, especially because they're not hearing your voice, they're not seeing your skin color, they're not seeing that you're, even a woman. You are this character, and as a result, people are treating you completely differently. What was that experience like? Because you had that contrast. You, without the costume, people treat you a certain way. With the costume, they treat you in a completely different manner. What was that discovery like for you?
I begin to realize that people is kind of people, two kinds. Good people is because have good heart, and people with bad heart. I think this is if humans like to make categories, let's see that I think I two kinds, good people and good hearts and bad hearts. I think so, because people with good hearts, no matter if they are kids or old or middle-aged or white or whatever, because in Times Square you see people of all the world, people of all the color, people of a lot of different countries. So I saw people who was very sweet and asked me for for pictures and for her grandmother, hugs. I had a kind of guy who every day go to visit us. I think he was autistic, 16 years old, and he always go there and hug, not everybody. He hugged the same people every day. I don't know how they know who are you, because sometimes I wear another costume. Sometimes I wear Mickey Mouse costume, or sometimes I wear Minnie Mouse, or sometimes I wear Elmo, and he knows who was the person behind, and he always give us a hug or a flower, or you begin to see all these kind of people with so beautiful heart that give you love, and you see a lot of people who give you hate. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people who take advantage of your accent or you are in that costume, and so they can push you or hit you or be rude with you, and no consequence, right? Of course, police is there to help us sometimes, but not is always the case. And when somebody happened to the tourists, of course, no representation, because many of them don't speak English, so they can't defend themselves. So I find once, for example, was 8 p.m. Saturday. I was there almost ready to finish, and a group of people come. They are drunk, I think. One of them hugged me so hard that my head, the costume of my head go out, and other scream, "She's fake," and push me. And when I go to the floor, hit me, and nobody helped. So I say, wow, I feel like, why people take advantage of somebody who can't run behind you, or nobody cares, just keep doing. Somebody told me, well, get up, other coworker, a Mickey Mouse, get up, let's go to drink a coffee. You finish. Like, no more, it's okay. So it's experience that gives you a lot of knowledge of the heart of the people.
Yeah.
More than beliefs, religion, socio-cultural, socio-economic, because I feel love for people very humble to people with money, and I feel hate for people very humble, economic poor, and people with money. So it's not about money, it's about heart.
Yeah. Another community that you've been photographing is the Trans-Latina community. There's a community of transgender and gay men, and probably women, though I didn't see that in the photographs that I saw. But that is a completely different world that still deals with some issues of being a part of being separated, but somehow finding a community. Tell me about how you became involved in documenting that community in New York.
I used to live in Jackson Heights, that is Queens, and in this neighborhood is the LGBT community is huge, and so in my background in Barranquilla, the LGBT community was invisible because I don't know. So I have a lot of concerns and things to make me curious about it. And I began to notice that we're a close community, and one day in the Queens gay parade, I saw a door in a nightclub, and for a weird reason I feel attracted to that door. I was very curious to see what happened in that door, and all this community was just excited because a lot of performance happened that day, people, press, so they don't see me as outsider because they see my camera, so they assume that I was press or whatever. They don't see me really. And I find this dressing room and I feel immediately that this place was so special. Like I feel a sensation of it's a kind of sensation. It's very awkward, the thing that I'm gonna say, but I feel like going to a church feeling, like sacred place, the dressing room of that club, because the people there was kind of trans, you know, like they were making themselves what they want, no matter if we're transgender or just drags or travestis or whatever they want. No matter if they have problems with documents or not, no matter if they have problems with alcohol or drugs or not, no matter nothing. That place was like, this is the place to be, and we are here the same. And I can feel that sensation, and the place was just great for photographers, or my style, I don't know, because we have these columns like Roman columns and all these details that I feel like, wow. Of course, after that was more difficult because was another day, and the revolution that they parade. So I had to have passion, because I am not part of the LGBT community, because I am not transgender. So what are you doing here? What is your thing? Why with your camera? So they see me all Sundays night, Mondays night, and I told them the truth. I am a documentary photographer. I don't work with anybody. I just find your life and you very interesting and beautiful, and I want to take picture of that. So they are beginning to make me faces. They are beginning to say, but with the time, they begin to believe me, and with the time, I begin to be part of this dressing room and help them, and begin to be like, where is the photographer? So this is the way that I begin to work with them. And I begin to understand many things, and I begin to teach myself things that I didn't know. I begin to realize that the transgender women are extremely religious, extremely spiritual, family people. As Latinos, no? Mm-hmm. Family, food, and religion. So I begin to kill all ideas that society give us. Of course they have problems, of course, like everybody, of course they have challenge, but I find a lovely community, and I decide to see that aspect of the daily life, and I decide to show that femininity and family and love that go to, okay, they are suffering, they are sex workers, they have addictions, because we know that, but we don't know the other part, that is, they are just people like us, of course.
How did you find this different from sort of the daily journalism that you did? What was the challenge for you as a photographer to photograph those different aspects of their lives, as you just illustrated? First was my own ignorance about it. That was my first and biggest problem, if I can say that. Because sometimes the education, or the lack of education, better, make you go to mistakes and assume things that doesn't exist. So take me time to understand the thing that I already say, that they are just people like us. It's not a big mystery. Gender revolution give you the opportunity to be who you are. That's it. This is not that big issue. But for a Latina like me, raised in Colombia in this conservative atmosphere, was a kind of mystery, but it's not. And I think some people, many people, mostly in Latin America, have that ghost in the mind that this is
seeing this is bad, that something is wrong. No, it's nothing wrong. It's just normal life. And in each community, each people have problems, different kinds. So this is another one. So this is my biggest problem, my own ignorance, and understand that and really believe at the end that it's just common people like us. Sounds very obvious, but not always. It's that obvious.
Well, tell me about earning a living now with your camera, because you had mentioned, after that first year, you were forced to, find this work as a costume character out on the streets. You're obviously not doing that anymore. But what does your sort of life as a photographer look like today?
Change for better, because after Hello Kitty, I was published in New York Times, and after that, I began to be more noticed for editors, and also my own vision as a photographer changed. I decided that go into a deep way of narration stories is my thing, and I begin to learn more about it. Now I'm beginning to use my camera more and more. I have different jobs nowadays. I sometimes shoot for Getty editorial news. Sometimes I shoot for customers that need a corporative shoots, or for the Wall Street Journal, or I am more active in this photographic business, and I feel more more open to tell stories. I feel more comfortable going in to tell stories of things that I believe are important to our society, and more in these days where the people take radical positions. So I think it's important for storytellers right now tell more stories, raise the voice, put the fingers where nobody is looking, to make the people who is radical maybe begin to understand better the world around. No, yeah. It's not black, it's not white. It's many colors there.
Well, my last question that I ask each guest is I ask them to recommend another photographer for our listeners to discover and explore. And it can be anyone, someone you've long admired or someone you've recently discovered. So who would that one photographer be and why? I
recently discovered a girl who's very young. Is from Ecuador. His name is Johis Alarcón. She surprised me too much because her style is acid, is super real. I like her too much. It was a kind of surprise. It's very new. I think she has 24 or something like that. But I discovered this girl and I was like, wow, so intense. So a lot of heart in her pictures. This is the thing that I more admire in a photographer, is the heart that they put in the pictures, more than the technique or the situation. It's more like heart that is, if the picture talked to you, moved you, I think this is the best thing to say. And also, I forget to tell you that I am going a book that is coming maybe at the end of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's about the Hello Kitty. It's coming in a book. So as soon as I have the book, I send you a copy.
I look forward to it. Well,
yeah.
Well, Joana, thank you so much for your time and your generosity. It really was a pleasure, and to have a chance to talk with you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Joana for sharing her time and her story. You can find out more about her and her work by visiting joanatoro.com. And you can show your support of the Candid Frame by writing a review in the iTunes Store. As people search for podcasts to listen to, these reviews can lead people to listen to us for the very first time, and that can make all the difference. So if you haven't already, please take the time to do it today. Thanks to Dave Horton and Dave in Delaware from the U.S., Marcus Staley from Canada, Vasco Silva from Portugal, and Stuart from Australia for their 5-star reviews. I love hearing from you. You can also support the show by making a monthly contribution through Patreon. And for as little as $2 a month, you can help us to not only meet the cost of production, but also allow us to improve the podcast, YouTube channel, and website. Or if you just want to make a one-time contribution to the show, you can do so via PayPal. You'll find links for both on the Candid Frame website or the show notes. Thanks to Brian J. Lewis, Tyler Burvey, and Jan Miskowski for their recent contributions. It really makes a difference. To access our complete archive of interviews, download the free Candid Frame app, available for Apple iOS and Android. Not only will you immediately receive the latest episode on your phone or tablet, but you can now easily share your favorite episodes on your social networks and help spread the word. And if you want to drop me a line, you can do so by emailing me directly from the app. Download it today by clicking on the link in the show notes or the website at thecandidframe.com. The Candid Frame's audio engineer is Martin Taylor, who you can find at theothermartintaylor.com. The show's senior producer is Cynthia Parker, and our music is from Kevin MacLeod, whose royalty-free music can be found at incompetech.com. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at simply @IbadianX. And this is IbadianX, and this is The Candid Frame.